If you ever want to play competitive, or just boost your FPS with having the best possible visibility, then this video will be just for you. We will go through in-game, Discord, Nvidia, AMD, settings, and much more. Thanks to pro player Nello from Navi, Jakub from the Turtle Esport, as well as a person in the computer science, and a person in computer engineering and professional programmer for making this video available and helping me. Let's start off immediately. Vulkan or standard version. Vulkan is recommended to everyone with low-end specs, that's at least easy. However, if you have a higher-end PC, you might want to test for a bit. We have been playing on a test PC, and we have found that we had more FPS on standard version than on Vulkan. As you can see, we had 176 FPS average on the standard version, and now we have 170 FPS on the Vulkan version. This is 6 FPS more on the standard version. This was tested on Shadows and LOD, both at low. When testing Shadows on medium and LOD on ultra, the standard version had 167 FPS versus 159 FPS when on Vulkan, which is 8 FPS difference. The standard version won over Vulkan. You can check more comparisons with the graphics settings in the description. It is also worth to know that some pro players are not playing the game on Vulkan, and most of the pro players are not playing on Vulkan when league matches, because of the anti-cheat called MOS. I have been also told by pro players that they will most likely change to Vulkan once it becomes official by the Ubisoft instead of the standard. So to wrap this part up, low-end PCs are recommended to go for Vulkan. Rest, check for yourself. Our test PC has shown better results on the standard version. I will give you all the competitive settings that you want to have, and we won't just go for the graphic card. We'll also go for the Discord settings as well as your Windows settings after this, to boost your FPS as much as possible. However, I won't talk about the interference in this video. If you would like to see why you should have point zone, as well as outlines, then let me know down in the comment section. And let's hit this video up with 1000 likes. Let's go to audio, and I will recommend having subtitles on. That way you can know if your teammate is reloading or not in the certain situations. Mind that there are no subtitles for the enemy actions, unless I think from the Clash or Treščáka. Master and music volume is pretty much dependent on you. Having music volume on could be detriment in the preparation phase, but other than that, it won't affect anything. Dialogue volume means that the shout of your teammates' operators. So I like to have it 100 for the same reason as for the subtitles. Dynamic range is a preference. I won't go too much into this as it requires its own video. But most people prefer night mode, which doesn't mean it is the best. It is just important to know that night mode is not the god of the dynamic range, nor is any other. If you would like to see such video, let me know. The rest of this is well explained by Ubisoft. However, you want to always have push to talk, because nobody wants to hear your cat, brother, or anyone else in the background. Let's go to display. Use your monitor's native resolution and play with full screen. Also, always max up your refresh rate, even if you cannot reach the optimal range of 130 to 144 FPS for the 144 Hz monitor. If you have different refresh rate than your Windows, then switching between the Windows and the game, it could freeze your game just for a slight bit, because the system has to adjust from the in-game refresh rate to the Windows refresh rate of 144 Hz. For the aspect ratio and FOV, and thanks to iFluvio on the subreddit's post, he has what majority of the pro players have. Whilst you are watching the table, and the table of the horizontal and vertical FOVs, it is important to know what horizontal FOV do. You can take it as stretching and unstretching a sponge. Sponge is in Siege language an enemy. The smaller the FOV is, the more stretched the sponge is. And what does stretching the sponge means? It means that you need to find A better hobby. No, but seriously, it means that if you decrease your horizontal FOV, the following will happen. 1. Objects, most importantly, your enemies will appear bigger. This means that you will have an easier time hitting them as well as the drones. Yes, you will finally be able to hit the drones. You're welcome. However, 2. Objects will appear to be quicker, as there is a quote-to-quote less time required to go from one end to another end of your screen. This could be pretty troublesome if you end up pretty often in the CQB fights. 3. Objects will appear closer. This one has nothing to do with the stretching the sponge. So, as you could see from the table, vertical FOV is the same, horizontal FOV is changing. If you want to see further about this, make sure to head on to the description. VSync, as well as the later one, is off. VSync adds just input lags, which can be pretty significant. Calibration depends on your monitor. Make sure that you are not playing a horror game. You want to see everything clearly. You cannot find a guide for this because it really depends on your monitor. Okay, let's go to the graphics card. On the right side, the numbers approximately shows the amount of the FPS being lost if turned from the off, low, to on, medium. Before we start, it is important that you want always to aim for the amount of FPS, at least 10 less percent than your refresh rate. So, if you have 144 Hz refresh rate, you want to aim to have at least 130 FPS or more, if possible. Texture quality. But Ubisoft is trying to say on the right side is a good thing. However, textures are not only dependent on the memory, therefore your FPS will obviously drop down if putting them on. Check the benchmarks in the description. We have been changing some important settings and you can see the difference between the average FPS. Texture quality shouldn't affect your gameplay in the theory, but it has been shown that when you put the texture quality on the higher settings, it could help to some people, as it gives a boost into the contrast. Therefore, it could help seeing an operator better. This is more person dependent, so if you don't have a high-end PC, put the texture quality to the minimum. Texture filtering is mostly eye candy. Basically what it does is leveling up your textures when you're watching them at an angle, like if you're watching them at 45 or 90 degrees. It enhances image quality by doing so. As I said on the right, it doesn't eat too much FPS, so putting it on the max is okay. The difference is not huge. LOD quality, and hear me out. Many things have changed since before. LOD quality had to be maxed before, because heads and the other objects will turn into triangles at a distance, which then you wouldn't know if it is a person or not. However, they fixed this. Check the pictures and try to figure out yourself which one has LOD on ultra and which one has LOD on low. If you don't see any difference, and I couldn't see any, you can put it off. We have been also testing LOD quality maxed against the distance targets, and the objects tend to disappear at a fixed distance was the same with or without LOD, so LOD doesn't affect the disappearing effect. You can see now that the object will disappear at around 30 meters from me, and if I have holo, around 35. If you have ACOG, no objects will disappear, even after the 60 meters. What is important here note is, and this even happened in the league match, as Corey said, but he deleted the tweet. He tried to destroy an evil eye behind a wheel of a car, and couldn't because the wheel did not render at a distance. Check me trying to destroy the following evil eye. Now check evil eye shooting at me that I cannot see if I don't have an ACOG. Pretty interesting, right? You could see that I had LOD on the Ultra on the all three examples. The same thing applies if LOD is on the low. LOD quality usually doesn't eat that much FPS. but if there is an explosion nearby, it can take up to 10. Drones and walkie cameras have always been rendered, no matter which distance. We could not find a reason why to put LOD on anything but low. What LOD quality is supposed to do is to render better, like characters or gun magazines, at greater distances. Shading is also an interesting setting. It basically is how lighting interacts with the textures. An example will be, if someone crosses through a window, how much of a lighting will be on his body. If you have a low-end PC, turn it low, otherwise it might help you in a slight bit. Shadow is definitely recommended setting to use, at least on medium, because it gives you legit wall hacks in the certain situations. I will give you 3 examples that happen pretty often in the pro matches. On the clubhouse when defending catwalk, any attacker trying to push you on the catwalk from the left side outside will have a shadow on the floor before they peek you, meaning you can pre-fire them. On the cafe, against the skylight, this lighting will be different if someone is on the skylight. On Oregon, if someone is about to pick you from the freezer, they will have shadows displayed before they can pick you. Understanding from where shadows can come can give you free kills, legit wall hacks. So having it on medium or higher is recommended. All shadows that we could see on the medium could have been seen on the highest, but shadows eats lots of FPS. Reflection quality is pretty much self-explanatory. Since Siege doesn't have that many mirrors, you could potentially see someone through the metal surface, or even darker cars. It could help you situationally, but it is more of a eye candy. I don't think this ever helped me in this game. Okay, now we are going for the settings that all should be turned off in the short. Ambient occlusion is pretty much adding additional shadows in rooms to get more realistic view in it. Imagine if you have a shelf. That shelf should make shadow, right? The papers or books on the shelf should also make a shadow. With ambient being off, that won't happen. If you have these shadows, then you could find the walkie cameras a bit harder, or you can find hidden drones a bit harder, etc. Lens effect. I have touched a bit on it, but if there is a content creator showing you walkie camera spots with the lens on, that means they know nothing what are they talking about. Check this Oregon camera with and without lens. This also will make playing behind the bomb harder, as there will be a red glow around the top of the bomb. This also means playing against the same spot as an attacker will be harder. Zoom in is pretty much game trying to make it more realistic, which is unneeding. Doesn't cost a lot of FPS. Anti-aliasing. Turn it off. Basically, if you have it on, if you rotate your mouse pretty quickly, it will be blurry, as the processing has to follow up your mouse rotation. If you really have a low-end PC, 1050 or lower, go for TIA. Anti-aliasing is making the edges smoother. So, in conclusion, and before we go off the game for the other Windows settings, if you have GTX 1070 and you have 60Hz monitor, you can mix up all the good settings, and that's from the texture quality all the way to the reflection. If you have 144Hz monitor, you can go with textures on medium and filtering 60 and shadows on medium. Finally, if you have 240Hz monitor, everything should be on low. Obviously, don't follow this as black and white. Discord and Nvidia. Let's head on to Discord, go to user settings, and go to appearance mode. In there, if you have issues with the FPS, as Discord suggests, turn this off. What this will make to your Discord is, for example, scrolling for the older messages will not be as smooth. Also, don't forget to join my Discord server, link is in the description. Once you have settled that one, let's go to Nvidia or AMD. Go to Nvidia's control panel. You will need to download all the updates before doing that. If you don't know how to do that, let me know down in the comment section below. when you updated Nvidia, you will be able to go to Control Panel and go to Adjust Image Settings with Preview and tick the Use the Advanced 3D Image Settings. Now head on to Manage 3D Settings. Go to Program Settings. Don't touch anything in the global. Find the Rainbow Six game that you're playing. There will be Vulkan and the standard one, so pick one of these two. But if you cannot see Rainbow Six, click Add, and then add them manually. When you click the standard or the Vulkan one, depending on what you're playing on, image sharpening should be off. Low latency mode should be on ultra. It will eat a bit of your FPS, like around 5. However, the settings will additionally lower your input lag. This is happening because your monitor will wait to the frame to come for the display. AMD should have a similar option. Now go to Power Management and put it on the Prefer Maximum Performance. Self-explanatory. Two more things. The first one is to go where your game is located in the files. For me, it is on hard disk, Program Files, Ubisoft Game Launcher, Cache, and then Avatars. Remove all the avatars. You will free your space by a lot. Some of my friends have even fed more than 2 GB. I will do this after this video, just wanted to show you all that avatars are being stored in here. Another thing is to go to Documents, My Games, Rainbow Six, and click one of these folders. Each folder stands for another Uplay. Click one of it and go to the game settings. Double click it. Find the motion blur and put it on 0. I have had it on 1, whereas my friend had it on 0 by default. You don't want to have any blur when playing. Now this one will not be about getting your FPS boost, but it will be on how to change your data center. For example, if you are from the US and you want to play in the EU, you want to put in data center hint the following: playfab/West Europe without spaces. So you have to put a region out of the playfab/ without spaces. I have put the Ubisoft blog on how to do this in the description. For the final note, if you have a 144Hz monitor or any non-60Hz, and if you haven't done anything to your Windows settings, you need to put 144Hz as a refresh rate. If you haven't, go to Display Settings in the search function and scroll all the way down for the advanced display settings. If refresh rate is at 60Hz, then go to Display Adapter Properties for Display 1. If you have 2 monitors, then you will have 2 displays. Head on to Monitor and put Max Screen Refresh Rate and click Apply. Just for the sake of testing, make sure that the refresh rate now is displayed correctly. This could be a reason why you didn't see any change from upgrading your 60Hz monitor to bigger refresh rate monitors. If you would like to see a video about the in-game interference settings, like should or should not put the points on, outlines, or if you would like to see a sound guide or even a mouse sensitivity guide, these all require their own videos, so please let me know down in the comment section below. If this video gets enough love, then I will know that this video was good for you and the effort here being put was not lost. Thank you for watching this video and staying with me for this long, and thanks all the patrons and YouTube members for making this video available. If you want to learn all the basics and advanced things about the Siege, make sure to give me a like, subscribe and click the notification bell to get all notifications from my channel. Make sure to give me feedback down in the comment section below.